Last time I was in a room like this, it was to explain my whereabouts on the night in question.
Oh no, stuff on my shirt.
Chair's uncomfortable, but that's okay.
They make this chair uncomfortable for a reason.
The chair's not put together very well. But my very first car.
1969 Chevelle.
1963 two-door hardtop Impala.
79 Pontiac Firebird.
73 Ford Bronco.
84 D100.
73 Mercury Comet.
It was a 59 Chevy Apache with a fleet side bed. It was a 1988 Buick Regal.
My first car was a 1973 Mercury Comet. That car got me in some serious trouble one time when we were at school, where at a girls' basketball game, the opposing people were calling our girls' names, so we just thought it was a great idea to, when they loaded on the bus after the game, a bunch of us go out and actually moon the crowd, which was their bus. And as soon as we did that and then sped away, we thought we got away with it, but the car that was in question that got identified was my car, not because it was a Maverick, because it was mustard yellow colored. And they said, who was the guy in the mustard yellow car that was showing his butt to all the people in the bus? And I actually had to write a letter of apology to the school over that.
So my first car was a 1973 Ford Bronco. I still own it to this day. Never sold it, don't plan on it, don't ask, it's not for sale. NFS. God, I was actually 15, and this showed my age. I found it in a newspaper classifieds ad, and it just said 1973 Ford Bronco. $2,800. Thanks, Marty. Taking care of your Bronco, bud.
My first truck that I was driving when I was 15 and 16 was a 84 D100. It had a 360 Magnum, 4-speed. It was lowered, awfully lowered. Cut coils, heated leaf springs, just a insurance claim waiting to happen. Never had the truck registered, never insured it, just drove around doing burnouts, drag racing in the neighborhood, just being a complete menace to society at 15 and 16 years old. Ended up selling that truck to paint another car that I actually still have. So that is my first vehicle story.
My first car was a 1963 Impala two-door hardtop. Me and my old man picked this thing up when I was about 13 years old. And over the course of about 3 years or so, is when this car really did transform. We painted it, put all new interior in it, dressed up the motor, redone the brakes, and so on. And right before I turned 16, my old man handed me the keys. I still have this old car, and one day I do plan to fully restore this thing. It's not gonna be to like crazy level, but it's gonna be really nice. And hopefully one day I'll be able to possibly give this to kind of either one of my kids. I'm sure I'm glad that this old car doesn't talk, because it could tell quite a few stories on me and some good friends of mine.
My first car was a 79 Pontiac Firebird that I got when I was 13 or 14. I actually, when we went and bought the car, couldn't even drive it home. It was banana yellow, tan interior, V6, pretty ugly. My mom drove it, she drove it home. I was riding the passenger seat, and it was actually funny because I started looking through the car, looking at the center console, and I found $150 in this little package. My mom looks at me and she's like, start popping the vents out of the dash. And I was like, what? And she said, that's where everybody used to hide their drugs when they were kids. And I was like, what? So I started popping vents out, you know, looking for like drugs or more money or whatever, you know. But it was a fun car. It was a good time, and it was a good learning experience because I bought it for way too much, put too much money into it, and sold it for the same price I bought it for. So, first truck I drove to high school was a 59 Chevy Apache with a fleet side bed. Really cool for a couple different reasons. Number one, just an old truck like that, not something you see very often, but my dad, he bought it for maybe $3,500, which is ridiculously cheap for a truck like that. It was a short bed too, which in today's market, you could probably sell it for 15, I bet. Straight six, 3 on the column. It even had the spear trim down the bedsides, which is really hard to find, and if you want to buy it, you're probably looking at least $1,000 just for the trim. My brother actually drove it to high school before I did, so kind of got passed down, and so I drove it for a year or two, and now actually my dad's restoring it, just making it like a true hot rod, really nice. So it's going to be really bitchin' truck when it's done, and to keep that in the family would be a pretty special thing, just given its history. Whenever I drive it next, it'll be even better.
My first car was a 1969 Chevelle. I remember coming home from basketball practice when I was 16, and my dad said, I found a car. My dad made a cash offer on the spot. It was black, had bucket seats. It was a cool car, man, and I still own it to this day, actually. There's so many memories in it. I went to prom in it. I didn't have a date, so the car was my date for my senior prom, essentially.
My very first car, well, probably just like most of those people out there, my first car was a hand-me-down car. It was a 1988 Buick Regal. Now, it wasn't the cool G-body. This was the first year they went to front-wheel drive, and it had the, I think, 3.2 liter V6 in it. It had the 2.8 liter V6 in it. Had cool buttons on the dash, had a digital display, so this was like ahead of its time. Back in the late 80s, that was pretty awesome. I'm sure Buick was kind of a classier car. But anyways, so I used to take my girlfriend out for a drive, and I could absolutely just put my foot in the car, and the car would downshift and make a whole bunch of noise, but you push this button that would change it from miles per hour to kilometers per hour. It looked like you were doing like 50 miles an hour faster instantly. So I always tricked a lot of people doing that, but so that was my first, like, I guess, car.
Cars in general, especially your first car, you never forget your first car, and you don't forget a lot of first things.
Half of those people end up selling it and wishing they always had it back. And I always had that in the back of my mind that this is my first car and I'm never gonna sell it, even if it sits in my shop for the next 20 years.
Every car that I've owned has been kind of an extension of my personality.
There's a common thread, and that's everybody remembers their first car or truck or whatever it was. Everybody remembers their first vehicle. And I mean, it wasn't anything fancy, but it was mine, and it was cool to me and had a lot of memories in it. If that car could talk, you know, that's the common thread, and people just would love to have their first car back.
Drop the mic, all fine.
I'm out.
Go home now. Thank you.